The smell of fresh coffee and victory fills my lungs as I arrange the last pastry in our display case. Perfect gleaming rows of croissants and danishes catch the morning light, each one placed with the precision that drove my mother crazy during planning. But today, watching the sun stream through the front windows of Haven and Home, I know every obsessive detail was worth it. I step back to take in the full view. Exposed brick walls, leather armchairs, the vintage espresso machine I spent 3 months savings on. My family's dream, finally real. More accurately, my parents' dream that became my obsession over the past 2 years, while my sister Delilah finished grad school. Everything looks incredible, Charlie. Simone appears beside me, clipboard in hand. Your mom's going to flip when she sees what you've done with the place. I check my phone again. 7:42 a.m. Mom should have been here 40 minutes ago for our pre-opening walkthrough. Even Dad's running late, which isn't like him. My texts sit unanswered. They're probably just stuck in traffic, I say, more to convince myself than Simone. Did you finish setting up the register? All set. Though I still think you should have gone with the newer model. The bell above the door chimes, and my heart leaps. But it's just Remington from the real estate office next door, early for his usual Americano. His eyes widen as he takes in the space. Wow! You actually pulled it off, Ford! He runs a hand along the reclaimed wood counter. Place looks nothing like the dump it was before. Thanks for the vote of confidence. I roll my eyes, but can't help smiling. After months of his skeptical comments while I renovated, the surprise on his face feels like its own victory. My phone buzzes, and I snatch it up. A text from Mom. In a meeting. Won't make it this morning. Good luck with opening. The words hit like a punch to the gut. 2 years of 4 a.m. bakery runs, maxed out credit cards, and endless permit applications. And she can't spare an hour? I force down the familiar ache of disappointment. Everything okay? Simone touches my arm. Yeah, just... I shake my head. Mom's not coming. Meeting, apparently. Oh, honey. Her face says what I won't let myself think. That this is about more than just being busy. I straighten my apron. It's fine. We've got this. Start the coffee brewing? The morning rush keeps me distracted, losing myself in the rhythm of drinks and small talk. But by noon, the nagging worry I've been pushing down starts to surface again. Still no word from Dad. Delilah hasn't responded to my excited texts about our first day sales. When the lunch crowd thins, I duck into the back office to call Mom's cell. Straight to voicemail. I try her office line instead. Abigail Ford's office, her assistant answers. Hi, Janet, it's Charlie. Is my mom available? A pause. I'm sorry, she's in meetings all day. Would you like to leave a message? Could you at least tell me what meeting? She was supposed to be here this morning for our cafe opening. Another pause, longer this time. I think you should talk to your mother directly about that. Ice spreads through my chest. Janet, what's going on? I really can't. I'm sorry, Charlie. I have to go. The line goes dead. I sit perfectly still, Janet's awkward hesitation playing on repeat in my head. Something is very wrong. My phone lights up. Delilah calling, finally. Where is everyone? I demand. What's happening? Charlie! Her voice is small, guilty. I'm so sorry. Mom made me promise not to say anything until after the papers were signed. What papers? The sale papers for the cafe. The room tilts sideways. What are you talking about? Mom's been negotiating with a developer. They're turning this whole block into luxury condos. She signed the final agreement this morning. Static fills my ears. But this is our place, our family's dream. It was never our dream, Shar. It was yours. Delilah's words come faster now, like she needs to get them out. Mom only backed it because she knew the property value would triple once the area got rezoned. She's been planning this flip since before you started renovating. I press my palm against the cool brick wall, struggling to breathe. Every detail I agonized over, every penny I poured in, it was all just part of my mother's investment strategy. And everyone knew except me. The new owners take possession next week. Delilah continues softly. Mom said to tell you not to make a scene. She'll explain everything at dinner on Sunday. The brick scrapes my skin as my hand curls into a fist. In the front of the cafe, I hear Simone greeting another customer, the bell chiming cheerfully. My cafe, my dream, my family's betrayal. Charlie, are you there? I end the call without answering. The taste of victory from this morning turns to ash in my mouth as I stare at the empire I built on a foundation of lies. I spend the next 3 hours methodically destroying my office. Every carefully chosen design magazine, every handwritten recipe, every family photo gets shredded into confetti. When I run out of paper, I start on the vintage coffee cups I spent months collecting from estate sales. The sound of ceramic shattering against brick is almost satisfying. Simone finds me sitting cross-legged among the wreckage, scrolling through real estate records on my laptop. Jesus, Charlie! She picks her way through the debris. I heard everything from the security camera feed. I'm so... Don't. My voice comes out raw. Don't say you're sorry. Help me figure out how long they've been planning this. She settles beside me, careful to avoid the ceramic shards. Maybe there's a way to contest the sale? You put so much of your own money in. They thought of that. I turn the laptop to show her. Mom had me sign partnership documents last year, remember? Buried in the fine print was a clause giving her final say on all property decisions. I was so excited about finally getting the funding, I didn't even read it carefully. That manipulative bee. Simone catches herself. What are you going to do? My phone lights up again. Another call from Delilah. I silence it without looking. First, I'm going to figure out exactly how deep this betrayal goes. Then, I close the laptop with a snap. Then I'm going to take everything from them. Charlie, don't try to talk me out of it. I stand, brushing dust from my pants. You didn't see Mom's signature on these documents, dated 3 months ago, when she was still helping me pick out paint colors and taste-testing scone recipes. She watched me pour my life into this place, knowing she was going to sell it out from under me. The bell chimes up front. Simone touches my arm. Take a breath. I'll handle customers for now. But it's not a customer. It's Remington, looking unusually serious. Heard about the sale, he says without preamble. Whole office is buzzing about it. Luxury condos, right? I nod stiffly. Thing is, he glances around before continuing quieter. There's no way they just signed those papers this morning. Development deals like this take months of negotiations, permits, zoning changes. Someone would have had to grease a lot of wheels to fast-track it. Someone like my mother. The pieces click into place. She's on the zoning board. Exactly. And word is, she's been pushing hard for this neighborhood's revitalization for almost a year now. He meets my eyes. Right around when she suddenly agreed to back your cafe. My laugh comes out bitter. So I wasn't just a pawn in her investment scheme. I was the perfect cover story while she orchestrated the whole thing. My phone buzzes again. Dad this time. I answer on speaker, past Caring, who hears. Princess, please don't be upset. Don't call me that. My voice shakes. Did you know? His silence is answer enough. How long? Your mother. He sighs heavily. She has a vision for this neighborhood. The cafe was her way of letting you be part of it. By lying to me? By watching me kill myself working while you all laughed behind my back? No one was laughing, sweetheart. Your sister understood the bigger picture. She's always had a better head for business. The rage that's been simmering all morning erupts. Because you and Mom made sure of that, didn't you? Paying for her MBA while I worked 3 jobs to fund this place? Telling me I needed real-world experience before grad school. It was never about making me stronger. You just needed to keep me desperate enough to play my part. That's not fair. You know what's not fair? That I actually believed you were proud of me. My voice cracks. That I thought if I worked hard enough, sacrificed enough, I could finally be the daughter you wanted. But I was just a useful idiot, wasn't I? Remington's hand appears on my shoulder, steadying. I hadn't realized I was swaying. Come to dinner on Sunday, Dad pleads. Your mother will explain everything. The developers are offering you a position managing their new retail space. I end the call. The silence rings in my ears as I turn to Remington. Those permit records you mentioned, how hard would they be to access? He raises an eyebrow. Technically? Very. But I might know someone in the records office who owes me a favor. Good. I walk to my desk, pull out the folder where I've kept every receipt, every contract, every email from the past 2 years. Because I'm going to need proof of exactly how long they've been planning this. And then, I'm going to use my mother's own paperwork to take this whole thing apart. You sure about this? But he's already reaching for the folder. Could get messy. I look around at my destroyed office, at the shattered pieces of my dream scattered across the floor. Good, I say. I'm counting on it. The fluorescent lights in my mother's empty office cast everything in a sickly glow. 3 a.m., and I'm sitting at her desk, practicing her signature for the 4th time. Each stroke feels like another brick in the wall I'm building between who I was and who I need to be. You don't have to do this, Simone whispers from her lookout position by the door. We could still try legal channels. Already tried. I don't look up from the document. Called 6 lawyers yesterday. The partnership agreement is ironclad. This is the only way. The signature flows easier now, muscle memory taking over. I hold the finished document up to the original. Nearly perfect. 2 years of watching Mom sign cafe paperwork is finally paying off. What if you get caught? That's why we're here at 3 a.m. I start on the next form. Mom never comes in before 9. By the time she notices these new partnership documents in the system, the changes will be locked in. Simone shifts uncomfortably. This isn't you, Charlie. All this sneaking around, forging signatures. The old me died the moment they signed those sale papers. The pen scratches loudly in the silence. Besides, I learned from the best, didn't I? Mom spent months forging the perfect daughter. Now she gets to see what her creation can really do. A noise in the hallway makes us both freeze. Footsteps getting closer. Security guard, Simone breathes. Regular patrol. I slide the documents into my bag as she kills the lights. We press ourselves against the wall, hardly breathing, as a flashlight beam sweeps past the frosted glass. One eternal moment later, the footsteps fade. That was too close. Simone's voice shakes. Let's get out of here. Just one more. I pull out the final document, the one that will give me controlling interest in the cafe property. 10 minutes. Charlie, I said 10 minutes. The words come out sharper than intended. In the dim light from the window, I see her flinch. Sorry, I say softer. I need to finish this. She's quiet for a long moment. Do you remember what you said when you first showed me the cafe plans? That it was going to be a place where people felt at home, felt cared for, like family should make you feel. The pen trembles in my hand. That was before I knew what family really meant. Was it? Or was that the real you before all this? The real me was an idiot who trusted too easily. I force the pen back to paper. This is survival. No, this is revenge, and it's eating you alive. She moves toward the door. Call me when my best friend comes back. The door clicks shut behind her, leaving me alone in the dark with my forgeries and fury. But my hand won't stop shaking, making the signature look wrong, desperate. Amateur. My phone buzzes. A text from Remington. Got the permit records. You need to see this. I pack up quickly, the last document unsigned. The night guard's footsteps have faded to the other end of the building, leaving the hallway clear. But instead of the elevator, my feet carry me to the conference room where it all started. The wall of photos stops me cold. Decades of my mother's vision for the city. Development projects, ribbon cuttings, charity galas. In every image, she's smiling that perfect smile, the one I spent years trying to mirror. Only now do I notice how it never quite reaches her eyes. My fingers trace the newest edition. Me at the cafe's soft opening last week, beaming between Mom and Delilah. Mom's hand rests possessively on my shoulder, while Delilah holds up the ceremonial key. The photo was her idea. Evidence of her long game, hiding in plain sight. My phone buzzes again. Remington. Seriously, this changes everything. I stare at my frozen smile in the photo, remembering how proud I felt in that moment, how desperate for their approval. The memory turns my stomach now. Simone's words echo. This is revenge, and it's eating you alive. She's right, but not in the way she thinks. These amateur forgeries, this middle-of-the-night skulking, it's exactly what they'd expect from me. The daughter who needs to be managed, controlled, protected from her own incompetence. I take a picture of the wall display, then carefully remove the cafe opening photo and slip it into my bag. Time to stop playing by their rules. On my way, I text Remington. And I need everything you have on the other properties Mom's developed. Every permit, every partner, every paper trail. If I'm going to destroy my mother's empire, I need to understand how she built it first. Starting with whatever's in those records that has Remington so rattled. The real game begins now. Holy shit! I spread the permit documents across Remington's desk, each one revealing another layer of my mother's deception. She's been planning this for 3 years, before we even found the cafe location. That's not the interesting part. Remington pulls out a thick folder. Look at the ownership structures for her last 5 projects. My eyes scan the documents, catching on familiar names. These shell companies, they're all registered to Delilah? Your sister's been busy since grad school. He taps one particularly dense document. Each property gets transferred through 3 or 4 entities before the final sale. Makes it nearly impossible to trace the money trail. The pieces click together with sickening clarity. That's why Mom paid for her MBA. She wasn't just playing favorites, she was grooming her replacement. And building a perfect shield. Remington leans back. Your sister's name on everything means your mother stays clean if anything goes wrong. My laugh comes out harsh. Delilah probably thinks it's some kind of trust fund. She always did believe whatever pretty story Mom fed her. You sure about that? Something in his tone makes me look up. What do you mean? He slides another document across the desk. Building permits for your cafe renovation. Signed by Delilah 3 months ago. The familiar signature blurs as my vision swims. She knew. The whole time I was calling her excited about paint samples and coffee suppliers, she knew it was temporary. There's more. He hesitates. The developer buying your place? Their CEO had dinner with your sister last week. Very cozy, according to my source. The betrayal hits differently this time. Not a sharp stab, but a cold, spreading numbness. She's not just Mom's pawn. She's an active player. Charlie! Remington's voice softens. Maybe you should talk to her before... A knock at his office door cuts him off. Through the glass, I see Delilah herself, looking perfectly put together in her business casual armor. Speaking of the devil, Remington mutters. I quickly gather the documents, but not fast enough. Delilah's already opening the door. Char? Her surprise looks genuine. What are you doing here? Just getting some advice about property law. I force a smile. You know, for future reference. Oh, honey. She steps closer, concern dripping from every syllable. I know you're upset about the cafe, but you need to trust Mom on this. The developer's retail position would be perfect for you. Less stress, better benefits. Like the benefits you got? The words escape before I can stop them. Must be nice, having your name on all those properties. She stiffens almost imperceptibly. I don't know what you're talking about. No? I pull out the permit with her signature. Maybe this will refresh your memory. Color drains from her face as she recognizes it. Where did you get that? Same place I got proof of your dinner with the developers. Tell me, did you order champagne to celebrate screwing over your sister? Yeah, it wasn't like that. She glances at Remington, who's suddenly very interested in his computer screen. Mom said this was the best way to protect everyone. The market's changing. We needed to adapt. Save the corporate speak for your shareholders. I stand, gathering the documents. I got enough of Mom's manipulation. I don't need yours too. Please. She grabs my arm as I pass. You don't understand what you're getting into. Mom's got everything locked down legally. If you try to fight this, you'll what? Have me arrested? Ruin my reputation? I lean close, dropping my voice. Guess what, sis? You already did your worst. Now it's my turn. Charlie, wait. But I'm already walking away, her protests fading behind me. In the elevator, my phone buzzes with a text from Simone. Please tell me you're not still going through with this. Another buzz. Mom this time. Delilah says you're upset. Let's discuss over dinner Sunday. Everything will make sense once you see the bigger picture. The bigger picture. Like I'm some child who can't grasp adult concepts. My finger hovers over the reply button, tempted to unleash everything I've discovered. Instead, I text Remington. Need one more favor. Can your records contact get building inspection histories? His reply comes quickly. Probably. Why? Because every empire has weak spots. Mom's been doing this too long not to have cut corners somewhere. I step out of the elevator into the bright afternoon sun, my path suddenly clear. Mom thinks she's protected, hiding behind Delilah's name and legal paperwork. But I learned from watching her. The bigger the facade, the more devastating the fall when it finally crumbles. Time to start pulling threads and see what unravels. Sunday dinner arrives with the weight of an execution date. I stand outside my parents' house, the familiar colonial facade now seeming as fake as everything else. Through the window, I can see them all gathered in the dining room. Mom at the head of the table, Dad and Delilah flanking her like loyal courtiers. My phone buzzes. Remington. Building inspector's report just came in. Multiple violations on the Harrison Street project. Big ones. I smile, tucking the phone away. Let them think I'm here to beg forgiveness. The manila envelope in my bag holds a different kind of absolution. Mom's face brightens with practiced warmth when I enter. Darling, we were getting worried. Traffic? I accept her air kiss, noting how she angles us toward the window. Always conscious of appearances, even now. Drink? Dad offers weakly, but I'm already sitting, pulling out the envelope. Actually, I thought we could discuss the Harrison Street apartments first. You know, the ones Delilah supposedly owns? The crystal glasses clink as Mom's hand trembles slightly. This isn't the time. 3 collapsed support beams. I start laying out photos. Faulty electrical work. Asbestos removal records mysteriously missing. Amazing what building inspectors find when they're properly motivated to look. Delilah's face goes pale. Those properties are up to code. Are they? Because these reports suggest otherwise. And since your name's on everything, I let the implication hang. Enough! Mom's voice cracks like a whip. Whatever game you're playing. Game? I laugh, the sound brittle. That's rich coming from you. Tell me, how long did you workshop the Café Con? Was it before or after you decided Delilah would be your perfect front person? I was protecting you. Mom's composure cracks. You're too emotional, too invested. Delilah understands business requires distance. Distance? My voice rises. I killed myself making your dream work. Every detail, every decision, I did exactly what you wanted. And look how you're reacting now. She gestures at the scattered photos. This tantrum proves my point. You're not ready for real responsibility. The words hit like physical blows, but I force myself to stay calm. You're right. I'm not ready for your kind of responsibility. I'm not ready to sacrifice people for profit or use my own daughter as a human shield. That's not, Delilah starts, but Mom silences her with a look. What do you want, Charlie? Mom's voice turns businesslike. Money? A different position in the company? I want you to feel what I felt. I pull out one final document. This is going to the housing authority tomorrow. Every violation, every shortcut, every shell company traced back to its source. Your empire burns, and Delilah takes the fall. Dad stands abruptly. You can't. Unless? I hold up a finger. You sign the cafe back to me, full ownership, no strings. The silence stretches like a wire about to snap. Mom's face hardens into something I've never seen before. Or maybe never let myself see. You would destroy your sister's future over a coffee shop? You would sacrifice one daughter to protect another? I counter. Actually, don't answer that. You already did. Delilah's chair scrapes back. This is insane. I never wanted any of this. The properties, the cafe, it was all Mom's plan. Delilah! Mom's sharp tone makes her flinch. No, she needs to hear this. Delilah turns to me, eyes bright. I tried to tell Mom the cafe should be yours completely. That's why I signed those permits. I thought if I played along, I could convince her to let you keep it. Liar. But uncertainty creeps in. You had dinner with the developers to try to stop the sale, but Mom had already... She deflates. It didn't matter. Nothing I said mattered. Mom stands, ice in her voice. That's enough! Charlie, you're clearly not thinking clearly. We'll discuss this when you're rational. We'll discuss it now. I pull out my phone, finger hovering over the housing authority's number. Tick-tock, Mom. What's worth more, your pride or Delilah's future? The mask finally cracks completely. For the first time, I see raw fear in my mother's eyes. Not for me, not for Delilah, but for herself, her carefully constructed world teetering on the edge. You would really do this? She whispers. To your own family? I think of all the times I measured myself against her impossible standards, all the years spent trying to earn the love that came so easily to Delilah, all the dreams sacrificed on the altar of her approval. I learned from the best. I slide the cafe ownership papers across the table. Start signing. Behind me, I hear Delilah's quiet sob. But I don't turn around. Can't turn around. Because if I see her pain, I might remember the sister who used to braid my hair and share her secrets. And right now, I need to be my mother's daughter, willing to burn it all down for the win. The cafe keys feel heavier now, weighted with victory and something else I can't name. I've been sitting in my reclaimed office for hours, watching dawn creep through the windows, but the triumph I expected hasn't arrived. My phone lights up again. Another missed call from Delilah. That makes 17 since last night. I silence it just as Remington appears in the doorway, looking unusually serious. Your sister's downstairs, he says. Looks like she's been crying. Tell her I'm busy. I start shuffling papers randomly. I have a cafe to reopen. She says it's about your mom. He hesitates. And something you need to see before it's too late. The familiar manipulation makes me laugh. Too late for what? Mom already signed everything over. Game over. Maybe you should hear her out. Why? I look up sharply. Whose side are you on? Yours. His voice softens. Which is why I'm telling you, something feels off about all this. The way your mom gave in so easily. Because I had leverage. Because she let you have leverage. He steps fully into the office. Think about it. A woman that calculating, that controlling. You really think she didn't have contingency plans? That she just happened to leave those building records where they could be found? Ice slides down my spine, but I force it away. You're the one who found them. Through a contact who works for a firm that handles your mom's legal documents. He meets my eyes. It's possible I was meant to find them. The implications hit like waves. Every document, every revelation, every move I thought was my own, all potentially pieces in my mother's larger game. Send her up, I whisper. Delilah looks smaller somehow when she enters, none of her usual polish. She's clutching a thick folder like a shield. Make it quick, I say before she can speak. I have work to do. No, you don't. She drops the folder on my desk. The cafe is being condemned. What? Mom filed the paperwork this morning. Emergency structural issues. Her voice cracks. The inspection team arrives in an hour. She can't. But even as I say it, I'm remembering her expression last night. Not defeated, but calculating. I have the ownership papers, dating back to the original partnership agreement. Delilah pulls out more documents. Which means you're legally responsible for all building code violations from the past 2 years, including the ones Mom deliberately created. The room spins slightly. What violations? Hi, falsified permits, substandard materials, all carefully documented and ready to be discovered. She looks away. She had the contractors plant the evidence during renovation, called it insurance. Against me. The realization tastes like ash. Her own daughter. Against anyone who might threaten her plans. Delilah sinks into a chair. I found out last night, after you left. She has similar traps in all her properties, even the ones in my name. We were never owners, Charlie. We were just her safety nets. My hands shake as I flip through the documents. Every page reveals another carefully laid trap, another way my mother planned for my rebellion and paved the path to my destruction. Why are you showing me this? Because I'm done being her puppet. Delilah straightens. And because there might be a way out, but you're not going to like it. I'm listening. The developers who bought this place, they're actually interested in preserving the neighborhood's character. Mom lied about the luxury condos to manipulate everyone. She leans forward. They've been looking for someone to manage their restaurant portfolio. Someone with vision and experience. You want me to work for them? I laugh bitterly. After everything? I want you to partner with them, and me. She pulls out one final document. I've been secretly buying shares in their company. With your cafe experience and my business connections, we could build something Mom can't touch. Right, because trusting family worked so well before. I deserve that. She meets my eyes steadily. But ask yourself, do you want to win against Mom, or do you want to escape her? The question hits harder than any revelation. All my careful plans, my righteous revenge, were they just another way of letting her control my choices? A commotion downstairs breaks the moment. Through my office window, I see men in hard hats approaching the building. Time's up, Delilah says softly. Are you ready to stop playing her game and start playing your own? I look around at my reclaimed cafe, remembering how it felt to build something beautiful here. Then I think of my mother's face last night, watching me choose revenge over family, just like she knew I would. Show me the partnership agreement, I say finally. The real one this time. Because maybe true victory isn't about destroying her empire. Maybe it's about building something she can never touch, with the sister who finally chose me over her. The inspection team reaches the front door just as I begin to read. The inspection team is halfway through their theatrical performance when Mom arrives, right on cue. I watch from the window as she emerges from her Mercedes, perfectly coiffed despite the early hour. Always dressed for her role in the drama she's directing. Ready? Delilah squeezes my hand. I check my phone one last time. Remington's text glows back. Documents filed, all set. Let's end this. Mom's heels click purposefully across the cafe floor as she approaches, her smile pure venom wrapped in concern. Darling, I came as soon as I heard. These structural issues sound dreadful. Save it. I hold up my hand. The inspectors can go. We both know they're just props in your little production. Her smile doesn't waver, but something flickers in her eyes. I'm only trying to protect you from what? My own incompetence? The consequences of my emotional decisions? I step closer. Or from threatening your perfect system? You're proving my point. She sighs dramatically for the benefit of anyone watching. This emotional outburst is exactly what you wanted. I match her tone, sweet poison for poison. Every reaction, every move, you orchestrated all of it. The building violations, the hidden documents, even letting me find the proof about Harrison Street. You needed me angry enough to grab for power, but not smart enough to see the trap. Her mask slips just slightly. You don't understand. Actually, I do. Finally. I pull out my phone, turning it so she can see the screen. That's why I had Remington file these papers an hour ago. Full disclosure of every violation, every shell company, every manipulated permit, in all your properties, including the ones you haven't planted evidence in yet. Color drains from her face. You wouldn't. The old Charlie wouldn't. She was too desperate for your approval. I smile, channeling her own practiced warmth. But you taught me well, Mom. Sometimes you have to burn it all down to build something better. I'll be ruined. Her voice shakes. Everything I built will survive if you act fast. Delilah steps forward, folders in hand. The developer's lawyers are drawing up immunity agreements right now. Sign over your voting shares, step down quietly, and the violations stay buried. Mom's eyes dart between us, realizing too late that her carefully positioned pieces have switched sides. You're working together? Surprised? I lean against the counter. My counter, bought with my money and my sweat. You always said Delilah had the better business sense. Guess she was smart enough to recognize a sinking ship. This is ridiculous. She draws herself up, armor settling back in place. You need me, both of you. Without my connections, your connections are already jumping ship. Delilah's voice is gentle but firm. Word's getting out about the Harrison Street problems. Everyone's waiting to see which way this falls. And right now, I add, the only thing keeping them loyal is the developer's promise to honor existing contracts, provided there's new management. The moment stretches like glass about to shatter. I see every calculation running behind Mom's eyes, every attempt to find an angle, a weakness, a way to regain control. But for once, she's the one without options. The lawyers are waiting at their office, Delilah says softly. I'll drive you. Mom's laugh comes out brittle. So this is it? My own daughter staging a coup? No, Mom. This is your daughter's finally becoming what you made us. I meet her eyes steadily. Survivors. Something that might be pride, or might be fear, flashes across her face. Then her mask locks back into place as she turns to leave, every movement still perfectly controlled. At the door, she pauses. The cafe really was beautiful, before all this. It will be again. I run my hand along the counter, feeling the warmth of the morning sun through the windows. But this time, it'll be beautiful on my terms. She nods once, sharply, and then she's gone. Delilah squeezes my shoulder before following. In the sudden quiet, I sink onto one of the leather armchairs, the ones I spent months hunting down at estate sales. The inspectors have already disappeared, their performance no longer needed. Through the window, I watch Mom's Mercedes pull away, carrying the last pieces of her empire toward its dismantling. My phone buzzes. Simone. Heard what happened. You okay? I look around at my cafe. Still standing, still mine, but forever changed. Like me. The victory I taste now isn't the sweet revenge I'd imagined, but something richer and more complex. Something earned. Better than okay, I text back. Want to help me redesign the place? Because that's the thing about burning it all down. Sometimes, rising from the ashes, you find exactly who you were meant to be. The espresso machine hisses as I perfect another rose pattern in steamed milk, muscle memory guiding my hands while my mind wanders. Through the cafe windows, autumn sunlight paints everything golden, including the grand reopening banner Simone insisted we hang. That's beautiful, Remington says, watching me work. But you're avoiding the real conversation. I slide his latte across the counter. I'm not avoiding anything. I'm working. The lawyers called again. He takes a sip, leaving the real issue hanging between us. They need your signature on the final settlement. The milk pitcher clatters louder than necessary as I set it down. Mom made her choice. Did she? Or did you make it for her? I turn to face him fully. Whose side are you on? The same side I've always been on. His voice softens. Yours. Which is why I'm telling you, keeping her shares in trust indefinitely won't give you what you really want. And what's that? Peace. The word hits harder than it should. Before I can respond, the bell chimes, and Delilah walks in, carrying a familiar leather portfolio. Thought I'd find you here. She settles at the counter, looking annoyingly knowing. Still hiding from decisions? I'm not hiding, I'm working, right. She pulls out the settlement papers. Mom's lawyer called me too. Said she's willing to accept complete separation from the business. No conditions, no secret clauses. Just done. It's another trap. But even I hear the uncertainty in my voice. Actually, it's surrender. Delilah's eyes meet mine. And I think you know why. I do. The memory surfaces unwanted. Mom's face the day she signed over her empire. That flash of something I couldn't name. Pride or fear, I'd thought then. Now I wonder if it was recognition. She saw herself in you, Delilah continues softly. The daughter who'd burn it all down to build something better. And it terrified her. Good. But the victory tastes hollow. Is it? Remington asks. Because you're starting to sound a lot like, don't. I grab a rag, attacking an invisible stain on the counter. I'm nothing like her. No? Delilah raises an eyebrow. You're holding on to power over her the same way she did to us, using business to control family, following her playbook perfectly. The rag stills in my hands. Through the window, I watch a young mother and daughter settle into the armchairs by the fireplace. My vision of what this place could be, finally realized. A home for others, even as I lock myself in familiar patterns. The developer's offer still stands, Delilah says quietly. Equal partnership, complete creative control of the cafe division. But only if we resolve this cleanly. I think of the documents waiting for my signature. One final move in a game I claimed I'd stopped playing. The bell chimes again. Simone walks in, takes one look at my face and says, "Oh good, you're finally having this conversation. Et tu, brute?" She hops onto a bar stool. "Someone had to stage an intervention. You've been polishing that counter for weeks." "I have not." I stop, really looking at my reflection in the gleaming surface. Perfect, controlled, everything in its place. Just like Mom taught me. Damn it! I drop the rag. When did you all get so annoyingly right? Around the time you got so annoyingly stubborn. Simone grins. So, what's it going to be? Keep playing her game or write your own rules? I look around my cafe. Really look, beyond the surface perfection. The mismatched vintage cups I couldn't bear to replace. The wall of local artists' work. The regulars who've become family. Everything that makes it beautifully, imperfectly mine. Give me the papers. Delilah slides them over without comment. My pen hovers over the signature line as one last doubt surfaces. What if? I swallow hard. What if letting go means she wins? No! Simone touches my arm. Letting go means you finally stop keeping score. The pen moves decisively, releasing Mom's shares from trust, releasing us both from the game we've played too long. Well then, I straighten, something lighter settling in my chest. Who wants to help me design the next cafe location? Their surprised laughter mingles with the espresso machine's hiss and the quiet murmur of customers. The sound of home, of family chosen rather than demanded. Of peace, finally, on my own terms. I start another latte, the milk swirling into a pattern I've never tried before. Something new, something mine. Because that's the thing about letting go of old stories. It leaves your hands free to write better ones. Hi there, I'm Sarah. My sister cut me out of Thanksgiving just to impress her boyfriend's family. Not only was I left out, but I paid for the dinner I wasn't invited to. That wasn't the first betrayal, just the loudest one. For years I covered her rent, her tuition, even her designer shoes, while she told the world she was self-made. But when I finally stopped paying, she didn't break the silence. She made a spectacle. Why did my own mother take her side? And how far would they go to shame me into silence? Would you keep helping a family that erases you? I had just finished a job in Norwood, routine furnace maintenance for a retired couple. It was late November, the air thick with the smell of wet leaves and early frost. I was tired, but it was the good kind of tired. The kind that comes after a full day of work where everything ran smoothly, no last-minute part runs, no irate clients, just clean, honest labor. I swung by a specialty wine store on the way home, picked up a bottle of Merlot, the kind my mother always liked for the holidays. It was tradition. Same every year. The traffic wasn't bad. I was already imagining the dinner table, overloaded with Ruth's turkey, cranberry sauce in that ridiculous glass bowl, and Charlene's high-pitched laugh. It had been like this since Dad passed. Same house, same smells, Same obligation to show up, no matter how complicated things felt. As I pulled up to a red light, I checked my voicemail. One new message. It was from Mom. Her voice was shaky, cautious. Sweetheart, listen, Charlene's hosting this year. Her boyfriend's parents are coming and I just think maybe it's best if you skip Thanksgiving this time. I sat frozen. The light turned green. My foot stayed on the brake. She didn't even pretend to sugarcoat it, just cut and served like cold pie. I called her right back. You're serious? I asked. It's not personal, she insisted. Charlene just wants everything to look a certain way. Dorian's family are, well, they're very refined people. I clenched the wheel. Because I fix furnaces for a living? Because my name doesn't come with letters after it? Ruth sighed. Please don't make this dramatic, Sarah. It's just, we don't want to make things uncomfortable. We? I asked. Or Charlene? You know how she is. Image matters to her. She just doesn't want questions, that's all. Questions. Like how her Ivy League degree got paid, or who kept the lights on in her Brooklyn apartment those 4 years. I didn't argue. Not really. There was no point. That tone in her voice, soft but immovable, meant the decision had already been made long before the call. I drove home in silence, didn't turn on the radio, didn't touch the wine bottle beside me. When I got to my apartment, I set it on the counter, unopened. That year, the only thing I brought to Thanksgiving was my absence. Later that night, scrolling through my phone, I landed on Charlene's Instagram. She stood center frame wearing a red cocktail dress, holding Dorian's hand. The dining room behind her was lit with candles, perfect and staged. Caption, grateful for those who matter most. No tag, no mention, not even a seat left open. I stared at it long enough for my phone to go dim. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, more out of habit than sleep. The apartment was quiet, untouched. I made coffee, sat by the window, and tried to move on. But some silences feel too loud to ignore. 2 days after Thanksgiving, the silence broke. Not from Charlene, not from Ruth, but from Lorraine. Around 7 p.m., just after I'd finished checking invoices for the week, a text popped up. Lorraine, you need to see this, in person. I drove to her place, no questions asked. Lorraine was never dramatic. She didn't send cryptic texts unless it mattered. When I walked into her apartment, she didn't say hello. She just handed me her phone. Screenshots. 4 of them. The first was a conversation between Charlene and Dorian. She'd told him she was paying her own way through school, claimed she was managing a startup, called herself self-made. Another message. If my sister comes around, it just complicates things. She's different. Dorian doesn't get that kind of world. I blinked, read it again. Charlene didn't just erase me, she rewrote me. I was no longer the sister who gave up vacations and dental work so she could graduate debt-free. I was now a problem to be edited out of her curated life. She's been lying to him for over a year, Lorraine muttered. I thought you should know before this blows up. I sat down hard on the couch. Images flashed, the MacBook I mailed her for her freshman year, wrapped in bubble wrap and a handwritten card. The night I drove 2 hours in a snowstorm to wire her rent. And now, I was the shame she hid. I guess she didn't think I'd ever find out, I said. Lorraine didn't answer. She didn't have to. Later that night, back at my apartment, I logged into my bank account. Auto transfer history, next scheduled, December 1st, $1,500. I hovered for a second, then hit cancel. A pop-up asked, "Are you sure?" Yes, I was. I even added a private memo in the transaction notes. She wants independence? Let her live it. It wasn't rage that moved my hand. It wasn't even revenge. It was the clarity of a final line being drawn, quiet, irreversible. I closed the laptop, leaned back, and breathed. There was no guilt, just the first taste of boundary. If I'm the shame in her story, then let me be the missing page she has to explain. I didn't sleep much that night. Not from regret, just a strange stillness, like walking out of a house and locking the door for the last time. The decision was final, but clean. No phone calls, no texts, not even a note. I didn't owe anyone a press release. The next morning, I brewed coffee and sat with my ledger, flipping through months of transfers labeled Charlene Rent Utilities. 5 years of them. What started as a 6-month helping hand had become a silent contract. And I had never once missed a payment, even when it meant saying no to myself. I remember the first transfer. She had just lost her part-time job at that tiny legal clinic and was 3 weeks behind on rent. I offered to help for a little while. "Just until things even out," she said. That was December 2018. She moved into a nicer apartment 2 months later. Somehow, temporary help turned into designer handbags and wine tastings with Law Society friends she hadn't earned a place among. I never questioned it, not out loud. I took on more service calls, picked up weekend work, told myself it was what big sisters did. Even when I skipped a trip to Colorado with friends or canceled a dental appointment for the 3rd time, I chalked it up to responsibility. But the gratitude never came, just expectation. That evening, I opened Instagram out of habit, and there she was, Charlene. Red dress, hair blown out like she just stepped off a magazine shoot. Dorian stood beside her, oblivious. Location tagged. Private rooftop mixer, City Law Society. The caption? Grind now, glow later. Glow? She wasn't grinding. She was accessorizing lies I paid for. That dress alone could have covered 2 weeks of groceries, and she had the audacity to stand there and pretend she was building this life with her own hands. I put my phone down and cleared the last recurring reminders from my banking app. No more payment dates, no more emergency backups. It was all gone. Then I opened my journal. I didn't write a full page, just one sentence. She wanted the freedom to stand alone. This is it. I closed the cover and exhaled. The silence wouldn't last long. Guilt doesn't take holidays. A few days passed. Cincinnati stayed gray and quiet, the kind of cold that clung to your bones even indoors. I focused on work, trying to keep my mind forward, but by Thursday night, the silence broke. Again. This time it came wrapped in trembling guilt. Mom called right after dinner. Her voice was low and hushed like someone had just died. "She hasn't left her bed, Sarah. She's not eating. I think she's not okay." I leaned against the kitchen counter. "Has she seen a doctor?" A long pause, then a vague deflection. "She says she just needs time, but if something happens, how will we live with ourselves?" We. The same we that pushed me out of Thanksgiving. The same we that praised Charlene's polished image while quietly cashing my checks. Now suddenly, we had a crisis on our hands. "Mom, depression is real, but if she needs help, there are professionals for that," I said calmly. "Not a sibling's checking account." She sighed, tired and wounded. "You're not even going to ask if she's okay?" "She's 32. She has a phone. If she wants to talk, she can call me herself." I ended the call before she could add another layer of shame. 15 minutes later, I got a text from Beth. "Beth. Hey, is everything okay? Your mom just called me. Said you've cut Charlene off, that she's spiraling." Beth and I hadn't talked much lately. Life had gotten busy, but she was still the kind of friend who believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt, especially mothers. So now Mom had gone behind my back, tried to rally back up, pitched the same sob story to anyone within reach. I didn't reply right away. I just stared at the message and thought, she's not asking how I am. She's asking if what Mom said is true, and that said everything. Later that night, I found myself thinking back to a snowy evening during Charlene's sophomore year. I had a service job on campus and decided to drop off her textbook in person. I showed up, still in my HVAC uniform, coat dirty, fingers red from the cold. She pulled me into a side hallway. "Can you change before anyone sees? Everyone here's in law. It looks weird." Back then, I told myself she was just young, embarrassed. She'd grow out of it. She didn't. I called Mom back the next day. She picked up fast. "If Charlene's unwell, I truly hope she gets the help she needs," I said evenly. "But I'm not the help she needs, not anymore." Mom was silent. "Pain is real," I added, "but manipulation wears a costume." And this one was starting to unravel. The next cry for help wouldn't come with tears. It would come with followers. By the weekend, it wasn't just phone calls anymore. The drama had gone digital. I opened my Instagram to a tag I hadn't expected. Charlene had posted a black and white selfie, eyes glassy, hair tousled just enough to look tragic. The caption read, "It hurts when your own blood leaves you cold, but maybe I was never enough for them anyway." 1,000 likes in 4 hours. Comments flooded in. No one deserves that. Family's supposed to lift you up, not break you down. You're so strong. Keep going. Strong? She wasn't battling cancer. She was spinning a tale for attention and dragging me through the mud in the process. I didn't react publicly. I didn't comment or like or share. I just stared at the way she weaponized half-truths to build herself a stage. She wasn't looking for healing. She wanted applause. The next morning, Ruth called. "I hope you're proud," she spat before I could even say hello. "You humiliated her in front of everyone." I blinked. "I did what now?" "She's hurting, Sarah, and you're just sitting there letting the world think she's disposable." I took a breath. "I'm not doing anything. That's the point. I owe her nothing, and I refuse to keep paying for lies wrapped in silk dresses. Don't act like money's the only thing that matters." "No," I said flatly, "but respect does, and I haven't seen any from either of you in a long time." She didn't hang up. She just went quiet, and that kind of silence always said more than shouting ever could. Later that night, I started getting private messages. Former coworkers, acquaintances, even a few HVAC clients from way back. "Saw your sister's post. Are you okay?" She said you cut her off completely. What's going on? I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have the words, but because I refused to waste them. Instead, I posted one thing to my story, white text on a black background. "Silence isn't guilt. Some of us just don't explain abuse to strangers." The response? Split down the middle. Some clapped, some questioned, but I didn't care. That night, I sent Ruth a text. "If this continues, I will publicly list every dollar I paid, every bill I covered, and every excuse I've ignored. Try me." A warning is still a kindness, but I was running out of kind. I expected silence, but Charlene didn't do silence. She did spectacle. 2 days before Christmas, I was mid-sentence during a meeting with my lead techs when the lobby door slammed hard enough to make the floor shake. Heads turned. My heart already knew. Charlene. She stormed in like a hurricane, mascara streaked, hair wild, wrapped in a coat she clearly hadn't bothered to button. The front desk froze. Every conversation in the open office stopped mid-word. "There you are," she hissed, voice already cracking. "You think you're so above it now?" I stood from my seat slowly. "This is a place of business. You need to leave." But Charlene wasn't here for logic. "You cut me off like trash," she yelled, eyes darting across the silent room. "I made you who you are!" Gasps echoed. My HVAC supervisor visibly flinched. A junior tech whispered behind his clipboard. I didn't respond right away. I just walked toward her, calm and direct. "You're not welcome here, Charlene. Security will walk you out." She took a step back. "I'm your sister." "No," I said, my voice cool and sharp. "You're the sister of the woman who built this company. That doesn't give you permission to tear it down." The receptionist had already pressed the call button. 2 security guards from the building's main lobby entered, firm but polite. Charlene tried one last time. "You can't just erase me." I didn't blink. "You did that to yourself." They escorted her out without struggle, though her screams echoed all the way to the elevators. When the glass door shut again, the room held a tight breath. I turned to my team. "You all know who I am. That hasn't changed." They nodded. Slowly, work resumed. But later, in my office, I saw the fallout, messages buzzing in the team group chat. Did that really just happen? Family drama? Wow. Boss didn't even blink. I stared at the screen for a minute, then closed it. In one scream, she proved exactly why I had to go silent. What do you do when they can't hurt your money? They aim for your name. It didn't take long. The morning after Christmas, my phone buzzed while I was pouring coffee. Ruth's name lit up the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. She didn't waste time. "I've been thinking, maybe it's time we sell the house." I blinked. "What house?" "The one on Linden Avenue, your grandparents' place. It's been sitting there, you know. Just taxes and repairs. If we sell it, the money could really help Charlene, get her back on her feet." I leaned against the counter. "So now we're monetizing memories?" She hesitated. "You both grew up there, you both benefited. It's only fair." There it was, the word, fair. As if decades of sacrifice boiled down to square footage and inheritance logistics. It wasn't about helping. This was pressure dressed as peace. I didn't argue. I ended the call politely, then opened a blank document, titled it, Charlene Contributions Rendered. I started listing rent paid, tuition covered, credit card bailouts, medical bills, every dollar, every month. It looked more like a lawsuit than a family history. I didn't send it. Not yet. That evening, Charlene posted again. A photo from when we were maybe 8 and 10, arms looped around each other in front of that very house. Her caption? Some homes are only warm because someone used to care. It spread like spilled wine on white carpet. Sympathy rolled in. Families are supposed to protect each other. You deserve better, girl. Blood doesn't make someone family. I didn't reply, just stared at it, then looked back at my unsent document. They didn't want the house. They wanted my silence, my consent, wrapped in guilt and signed with sacrifice. I grabbed my phone and texted Ruth. If you push this, I'll contest every cent. Try me. They wanted me silent, obedient, ashamed. What they got was receipts. It came through Lorraine, of course it did. I was sipping tea by the window when her name popped up on my screen. You might want to sit down, she said. Why? Dorian dumped Charlene. I didn't move, just waited. He found out, about everything, her tuition, the apartment, you. Apparently his mom did a little digging and connected dots Charlene thought were invisible. I closed my eyes. He said he was speechless, embarrassed, and done. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was honest. Later that afternoon, I opened my inbox. A new message, subject line, please read this. It was from Charlene. She began with the word sorry, then spent 3 paragraphs blaming fear, societal pressure, the need to keep up. She said people wouldn't respect her if they knew how much help she'd had. She ended with, you can't let me drown, please. No mention of gratitude, no ownership, just another plea, framed as forgiveness. I didn't respond. The next day, my cousin Madison texted me. She didn't get the firm job. They asked for experience she couldn't fake. Her resume's paper thin. So there it was. Reality finally cashing in. No more borrowed shine. No more illusions curated for brunch tables and LinkedIn feeds. That evening, I made chamomile and opened Charlene's email again. Reread every word, then hit delete. I pulled a notebook from the drawer, wrote one sentence, slow and clear. Survival is not selfish. Distance is not cruelty. Silence is peace. And I meant it. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. January light always felt cold, but that day, it didn't reach me at all. I sat on the edge of my bed, mug of coffee in hand, reading Ruth's text. Come home. Everyone misses you. Let's make this right. There was no apology, no admission, just a polite plea wrapped in the same old fabric. Expectation. I didn't respond. I didn't even save the message. I deleted it, then turned off my phone and sat in the quiet. Later that week, I walked into my office. The space looked nothing like it had a year ago. Sleek panels, organized stations, new apprentices getting certified. A banner hung over the reception. Keynote speaker, Sarah Callahan, Women in HVAC 2025. It didn't feel like vindication. It felt like alignment. My effort finally standing without disguise. I checked the schedule, booked solid for 6 months. Midday, I opened Instagram. There it was. Another message from Charlene. This one came with a carousel of old photos. Birthday cakes, dress-up costumes. The 2 of us at 7 and 9, grinning with missing teeth. The final image was just text. Please don't forget who I used to be. I blocked the account. That evening, Lorraine stopped by after work. She dropped off a book and stood awkwardly at the door before saying, Aunt Joan called me a traitor for taking your side. I raised a brow. And? She smiled. I told her I wasn't picking sides. I was picking truth. That night I made tea and curled up by the window. The snow fell soft and quiet. My phone stayed off. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt whole. Some people think forgiveness means reunion, but it doesn't. Some doors stay closed because that's where the healing lives. Not all seats need to be refilled. Some just need to be remembered and left empty. Before I go, let me leave you with this. Sometimes walking away doesn't make you cold. It makes you sane. Setting boundaries with the people you love is never easy. But it's necessary when love is being weaponized. I learned the hard way that protecting your peace might cost you people, but never your dignity. And that's a price worth paying. If you've ever been made to feel like the villain for standing up for yourself, just know you're not alone. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom dressed in restraint. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is nothing at all. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from family to protect your mental health? Or been guilt-tripped into staying silent for the sake of keeping the peace? If this story hit home, drop a 1 inch in the comments, or tell me what state you're watching from. Didn't vibe with it? Let me know why. I read everything and I'm here to grow too. And if you're watching this late at night with a warm drink and too many thoughts, hey, you're in good company. Before you scroll on, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next real-life story that might just mirror your own. Hi there, I'm Fiona. At my sister's wedding, I wasn't a bridesmaid. I wasn't even a guest. I was the parking attendant. Yeah, that was my role. Handing out valet tickets while strangers toasted to a future I wasn't invited to witness. But that wasn't the worst part. What really broke me was realizing they didn't forget me, they erased me. From the photos, from the live stream, from the family itself. And when I finally walked away, what happened next? Well, let's just say they didn't see it coming. Why would a mother hand her daughter a waiver just to silence her? Why would a bride secretly plan a divorce before saying, I do? And what would you do if it was your family? The sun hit my windshield like it had a grudge. I pulled into the gravel loop of the estate, tires crunching under me like brittle bones. Charleston could be beautiful in late spring, magnolias in bloom, the scent of salt in the air, but today it just felt like a setup, like the weather itself was mocking me. I parked off to the side near the back service area. Not the guest lot. No, this was clearly designated for help. The staff vehicles were lined up like obedient soldiers, SUVs, pickups, and a rental van with the catering logo half peeled off. I turned the engine off, stared at the grand colonial building ahead, and took a breath. 2 weeks ago, Clarice, my mother, had called. No greeting, no check-in, just, we're short-handed for the wedding. You're organized. You could manage the parking lot, couldn't you? No mention of me being family, no RSVP, just parking. Still, like a fool, I agreed. Why? I told myself it was about being helpful. But deep down, I hoped, stupidly, that maybe being present meant being seen. The first thing they gave me when I checked in was a lanyard, a laminated name badge clipped to it, bold black letters, Fiona, no last name, no designation, not sister of the bride, just Fiona, like I was part of a catering crew they'd picked up off Craigslist. Black on black, the coordinator said, handing me a staff shirt wrapped in plastic. We're going for cohesive. Clarice's voice echoed in my mind. Brand consistency matters. It's not personal. I slipped into the uniform in the staff restroom. Polyester, tight around the shoulders. It smelled like starch and someone else's perfume. I folded my jumpsuit carefully and tucked it into a plastic garment bag. I didn't feel like myself anymore. I felt like background noise. Guests started arriving just before noon. BMWs and Teslas gleamed in the sun like they were part of the decor. Some of the drivers nodded at me like I wasn't there. One woman actually waved me over, rolled her window down and chirped, "Is the valet bathroom out back too?" She laughed before I could answer, already rolling up the tinted glass. By the time the 5th luxury SUV pulled in, I stopped trying to smile. Every greeting from a stranger chipped at me, a reminder, you're not one of them. You're service now. I asked the event manager if I should assist inside once traffic slowed. She didn't even look up from her clipboard. No, you're scheduled outdoors only. Don't forget sunscreen. Inside, I knew they were taking photos. Toasts. A string quartet playing Vivaldi. I heard the faint clink of champagne glasses carried by the wind. Meanwhile, I stood in the heat, moving traffic cones with sweaty palms and a growing ache in my lower back. My shoes, ballet flats, never meant for gravel, were already scuffed. The blister forming on my heel was going to burst before the first dance even happened. A silver Lexus pulled in. The passenger window dropped and a familiar face leaned out, Mrs. Kellerman. She used to live down the street from us when I was a kid. She squinted. Fiona? Oh, I didn't realize you were working the wedding? Her words hung in the air like damp laundry. I lied gently. Just helping out. Family pitch-in. She smiled politely, the way people do when they don't know what to say, but definitely feel sorry for you. When the stream of cars slowed, I found a small patch of shade behind a pillar. I let my weight sink against it, pretending to check my phone. I wasn't expecting messages, but I still hoped. A message blinked on screen. Mason, still want me to show up? I stared at it. I hadn't told him how bad this was. He'd offered to fly in just to support me. I said no. Said it wasn't worth the hassle. Now I wasn't so sure. I didn't answer. I just looked at the grand entrance in the distance. Music swelled from inside. Laughter, toasts, cheers. None of them were for me. And then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement. Someone stepping out of the main hall. Not a guest, not staff either. A camera hung from his neck. The videographer. He wasn't filming the party anymore. He was filming me. I didn't move, didn't flinch. Just stood there, frozen, pretending the camera hadn't found me. The videographer had stepped out for candids, or so I assumed. He swung his camera casually like a bored tourist, catching clips of Delphine swirling in slow motion with guests on the lawn. Her veil danced like a ribbon. Her friends laughed at just the right volume. The lighting was golden, filtered, perfect. Then his lens shifted slightly, toward me. Out of habit, I offered a polite smile. Not wide, just enough. He paused, squinting at the viewfinder, then awkwardly lowered the camera. Sorry, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. Bride asked that we avoid filming the support team. Support team, that's what I was now? Not sister, not family, just support. I nodded once. No problem. He turned and wandered back toward the entrance. Shoulders tight like he knew he'd crossed a line. I didn't blame him. He was just following a list. Everyone today was following some list. But that list didn't have my name on it. I took my phone out again and opened Instagram. There was a new carousel post on the wedding page. Sunlight through champagne glasses. Handwritten vows. Clarice laughing with Russell during the rehearsal dinner. I tried tagging Delphine in a comment. The screen flashed. User not found. I blinked. That couldn't be right. I tapped on her profile. Blank. Vanished. No grid, no bio, blocked. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until the tightness in my chest pushed it out. Curious now, I checked the hashtag. #Delphine and Malcolm say I do. Hundreds of posts, clips, stories. None of them had me in a single frame. Not even in the background. I moved to Facebook. Clarissa's profile was public, intentionally so, I was sure. Her feed was a shrine to Delphine. Toasts, centerpieces, family photos carefully chosen. In one, Russell stood between Delphine and Clarice, both women beaming. The caption read, "The three that built this day together." No mention of me. No likes from me either. I scrolled without touching anything, the way you stare at a storefront knowing you can't afford what's inside. The crunch of gravel made me look up. A voice followed it, low and familiar. "Hey, they said this was the check-in." It was Mason. He was holding a simple boutonniere and an envelope. My envelope. I'd written it 2 weeks ago. Inside was a short note. "Wear this and meet me near the back garden." I had tucked it into a card that said, "Thank you for not letting me disappear." I hadn't expected him to use it, but he had. A security guard blocked his path. "You're not on the app list," he said. "Bride's family cleared names this morning." "I'm here as a guest of Fiona," Mason said, calm but firm. The guard frowned. "We've got no Fiona registered on the guest tier." "I was personally invited," Mason said again. "I'm sorry, if your name isn't in the app or manual list, I can't let you inside." I stepped forward quickly. "It's okay," I said, my voice flat. "He's with me." The guard glanced at me, then shrugged. Mason's eyes searched mine. "You good?" I nodded once. "Yeah, go ahead, I'll text you." "You sure?" "Yeah," I lied. He lingered for a second, but I stepped back before he could say more. I watched him walk back toward his rental car, boutonniere still in hand. No fuss, no questions, just quiet disappointment. When his taillights disappeared down the gravel path, I sat on the edge of the wooden bench near the parking cones. My hands rested in my lap, motionless. The sting wasn't sharp. It was slow, numbing. I wasn't just unwelcome, I was edited out. No space at the table, no face in the feed, no voice in the room. My body was here, but the version of me that belonged to this family? She had been erased a long time ago. Today just confirmed it. I sat in that silence for a long time, watching shadows lengthen across the grass. Guests moved in pairs, sipping rosé, laughing under paper lanterns. I stayed where I was, just beyond the view of the lens. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mason. "They don't deserve you, but I'll wait nearby, just in case." I stared at the words. I didn't reply. A glass shattered somewhere near the patio. A chorus of claps followed. More laughter, more joy that didn't include me. And then a microphone clicked on inside. Clarissa's voice followed. The sound system wasn't perfect, but Clarissa's voice cut through like polished glass. "And now," she said, her tone syrupy and precise, "a toast to the reason we're all here today." I stood a few steps away from the patio doors. I could see the guests raising their glasses, heads tilted with polite expectancy. "Delphine has always been our sunshine," Clarisse continued. "Our golden girl. The one who knew what she wanted even before she could spell it. She lights up every room she walks into." They clinked their flutes and smiled like they'd rehearsed it. I waited. Just one line, one syllable, something. Instead, Clarisse added with a playful smirk, "Some families get one perfect child. We got lucky. We got Delphine." The laughter was instant, light, carefree, like someone had made a harmless joke about a favorite dessert. But I didn't laugh. I didn't even blink, because it wasn't just a punchline. It was a scalpel. My phone slipped deeper into my back pocket. I crossed my arms and leaned against the stucco column by the patio stairs. A waiter passed without seeing me. A breeze lifted the edge of my staff shirt. Still scratchy, still not mine. That toast didn't hurt because it was surprising. It hurt because it wasn't. 2 weeks earlier, I'd stopped by Clarissa's house. A quiet Sunday. I wasn't invited. I just showed up with a small velvet box and a handmade bracelet inside. Nothing extravagant. Just a thoughtful something blue, crafted with stones I knew Delphine liked. Because even when she didn't like me, I still remembered what she loved. Clarisse opened the door just enough to see me. Her lips tightened. Delphine stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes already rolling. "Mom," I said. I just wanted to wish her well. Clarisse didn't open the door wider. Didn't invite me in. She didn't even glance down at the box in my hands. Instead, she looked over her shoulder at Delphine, then turned back to me and said, "You don't get to do this anymore." "I'm not trying to cause trouble," I said softly. You're not part of this," she interrupted. Calm, sharp, like she was canceling a subscription. "I'm your daughter," I said. I didn't mean for it to come out like that, like a plea. Clarissa's expression didn't shift. "No, I have one daughter, the one getting married." She didn't whisper it. She didn't flinch. She just closed the door slowly, like she was hanging up a phone. Delphine didn't say a word, but she smiled. And that smile has stayed with me. It's strange, the things that stick. Moments that harden in your chest like stones. Not the big betrayals, but the small confirmations. The ones you knew were coming. I'd buried that moment, tried to rationalize it. She was stressed. Weddings make people weird. Maybe she didn't mean it like that. But now, hearing her toast echo over clinking glasses, her laughter dancing with the crowds, I knew better. This wasn't about stress. This was a pattern. Years ago, when I got my scholarship letter for pre-med, I'd shown it to her with shaking hands. She'd nodded, barely lifting her eyes from the stove, and said, "That's nice, dear." When Delphine placed third in a spelling bee, Clarisse threw a brunch, had a banner printed. "Words matter and so does Delphine." My whole life had been an exercise in shrinking. Less attention, less fuss, less room to ask for more. But today wasn't just another day of being overlooked. Today was the day she told the world I didn't exist. The sky was shifting to amber as the afternoon edged closer to dusk. Guests started drifting toward the buffet, the small talk getting louder with wine. I walked away from the main entrance, trying to stay out of frame, out of reach. I passed a group of women near the garden hedge. One of them, maybe a cousin's plus one, whispered a little too loudly, "Wait, is that the bride's sister?" A second voice answered, "No, I think she's adopted or something." They never talk about her. They didn't even lower their voices. I stopped behind a tree. My fingers curled into fists, not out of rage, but something slower, denser, grief, the kind that doesn't rush out. It settles. The gravel beneath my feet crunched as I turned around and headed back toward the parking lot. I couldn't be seen pacing. Staff wasn't supposed to linger where guests could see them idle. Not that I was truly staff, or family, or anything. I didn't notice the woman at first. She was already halfway across the lot, striding straight toward me in low heels and a silver wrap. Her hair was the color of frost, elegant, pinned back with minimal effort. Her posture made it clear she wasn't here to socialize. She stopped a few feet away. Her voice was low but unmistakably firm. "You don't look like someone who belongs in a parking lot." I blinked, unsure if she was joking or scolding me. Then I realized who she was. Malcolm's mother, Vera. And whatever she was about to say, it wasn't small talk. Vera didn't look away. She just held my gaze like she was checking for something. Damage maybe, or whatever was left underneath it. Then she reached into the pocket of her wrap and pulled out a cold bottle of water. The condensation slipped down her fingers as she extended it toward me. "Take it," she said. "Hydration is survival out here." I took the bottle, more out of surprise than need. The water cooled my hand instantly. I hadn't realized how dry my throat was. "You're her sister?" she asked, voice level but curious. "Yeah," I answered. She raised a single brow, the movement subtle. "Strange. Everyone inside pretends you don't exist." I gave a dry laugh, more breath than sound. "I'm not their pride," I murmured. "I'm the part they don't brag about." Vera didn't flinch. She looked at me the way a doctor might study a bruise, measuring depth, cause, and the likelihood of healing. "They'll regret that," she said softly. For a few seconds, I forgot where we were. The venue, the wedding, the invisible uniform I was sweating through. It was the first time all day someone looked at me without squinting like I was out of place. Vera wasn't offering sympathy. She was offering recognition. I almost didn't hear the footsteps approaching. A woman in crisp flats and a headset appeared, clipboard in hand, smiling like she practiced in a mirror. "Hi, are you Fiona?" she chirped. I turned slowly. "Depends on who's asking." "I'm with the coordination team," she said, glancing briefly at Vera, then back to me. "Clarice asked me to get your signature, just a formality." She handed me the clipboard. A neatly typed sheet sat on top with bolded headers. Volunteer and staff liability waiver, zero media clause. I skimmed the bullet points. No social media posting of any kind, no speaking to guests or press about internal matters, no presence in photo-video documentation, no disruption or interference with scheduled programming. I looked up at her. "Is this normal for parking attendants?" She smiled again. "It's just to prevent confusion. You're not on the guest list, so it's standard practice." Standard practice to silence someone. I turned the page over. Blank, no addendum, no explanation, just a line for my signature. "It's meant to protect the couple," she added quickly. "You know, from any misinterpretation or drama." "This is to keep me quiet," I said flat. She didn't argue, just smiled wider. "Clarice said you'd understand." That name did it. Clarice. My mother had found yet another way to erase me, legally this time. I didn't sign. I didn't tear it up either. I folded the form in half and slid it into my back pocket. I wasn't sure why I kept it. Instinct maybe, or spite. The woman's smile twitched. She gave a little nod and walked off. I leaned against the nearest car, the heat from the hood seeping through my jeans. The bottle of water sat unopened beside me. If I signed that paper, I'd be everything they said I was. Quiet, easy, non-existent. If I refused, I'd be the troublemaker, the angry one, the bitter sibling who ruined a wedding. It was a trap, and the walls were made of polite smiles and perfect lighting. I stared out toward the guests drifting between the lawn and cocktail tables. I imagined the stories already forming in their heads. She always kept to herself. She was probably jealous. Some people just don't know how to be happy for others. They didn't know a damn thing, but the thing that simmered most wasn't sadness anymore. It was precision, like a blade finally being sharpened after years of being dulled on purpose. I felt Vera's eyes on me again. She had drifted a few steps away, But before she reached the main hall, she turned back. Her voice was clear. "Keep that form," she said. "You may need it, not to sign, but to show." And with that she walked inside. I stood alone again, but this time the quiet didn't sting. It buzzed, like electricity before a storm. Somewhere inside, a server dropped a tray and people gasped. But Malcolm wasn't paying attention to the spill. He was staring at an email on his phone. An email not meant for him. The tray crashed near the hors d'oeuvres table, and everyone gasped. But not Malcolm. He stood near the window, one hand wrapped around his phone, the other tucked into his jacket pocket. His posture had shifted, subtle, but unmistakable. The slack in his shoulders was gone. He wasn't watching the mess. He was reading something serious. Inside the glowing screen was an email that had slipped through the cracks, a forgotten forwarding rule from an old shared inbox during the early days of their wedding planning. He recognized the sender instantly. Law Office of Nancy J. Kincaid. Subject: Next Steps, Marriage Asset Consolidation. The email was addressed to Delphine. Lines stood out like sirens. Proceed with final stage 30 days post-merger. Once marital assets are integrated, execute quietly. He'll never suspect if you keep smiling. Malcolm didn't say a word. He didn't storm out, didn't demand an explanation. Instead, he slid the phone into his pocket and scanned the room. When his eyes landed on Vera, something passed between them, a nod. Barely there. He crossed the floor and whispered, "We were right." Vera didn't ask. She just pressed her lips together and answered, "Get the prenup?" He turned on his heel and walked straight toward the coordinator's tent. Back outside, I hadn't moved from my spot near the parking loop, but I felt it. The air was different, more electric, like a curtain was about to drop and no one inside had rehearsed what came next. I didn't know what Vera had seen or what Malcolm had read, but I knew when the atmosphere changed, and it had changed. 3 days earlier, Vera had called me late at night. Her voice was calm, but there was steel behind it. "Have you ever wondered why Delphine always knows where Malcolm is?" I had laughed bitterly. "Delphine doesn't trust shadows. She checks the locks twice," Vera replied. "He gave her his laptop password last year. I told him to change it. He didn't." That afternoon, Malcolm ran a security scan, just in case. And what he found wasn't just spyware. It was remote access software installed months ago, hidden under an old event planning tool Delphine had asked him to try. The app had permissions to track keystrokes, screenshots, even location pings. He hadn't told anyone, not even Vera, not until today. Now, watching him disappear into the reception tent, I knew that line had finally snapped. Across the garden path, Vera reappeared with a folded slip of paper in her hand. She walked straight toward me, no pretense. "This landed in my inbox yesterday," she said, holding it out. "Same law firm, same language, wrong address." I unfolded the printout. It was another email thread, different timestamp, but unmistakably familiar. Delphine had sent instructions to the lawyer, requesting clarification on Malcolm's asset categories. Her tone was professional, cold, calculating. "They're playing all of us," Vera said quietly, "but I think it's time we played back." My chest tightened, not from fear, from clarity. This wasn't paranoia, this wasn't rivalry, this was strategy, and I had just been drafted to the other side. I slipped the paper into the same pocket where the waiver form still sat. We didn't hug. We didn't speak again. She just nodded once and walked back inside. Moments later, I saw Clarice. She was near the rose fountain, flanked by the wedding planner and one of the venue staff. They were whispering, glancing toward me like I'd grown a second head. Clarice's expression had shifted for the first time all day. Worry. She motioned toward the planner, said something clipped, and turned her gaze toward me. I didn't look away. Not this time. I just held her stare. Her mouth tightened. Her hands fidgeted with the pearls at her collar. For the first time, she wasn't in control. Then, near the bar, Malcolm reappeared. He spoke briefly to a staffer, then placed both hands on the counter and ordered a whiskey. No garnish, no ice. Just poured, straight. A moment later, my phone buzzed. One word from Vera. "Tonight." I exhaled slowly. Because the plan wasn't revenge. It was exposure. I could feel it in my spine, the shift, the beginning of the unraveling. A breeze had picked up, cooling the sweat behind my knees as I stood near the parking loop. The sun was lower now, everything cast in gold, even the lies. That's when it happened. A woman in a silky blush dress and oversized hat teetered her way toward me on glittery wedges, holding a half-empty champagne flute. She squinted at me. "Oh, good valet," she slurred, dangling her car keys like bait. "Can you bring the Lexus around? The gray one with the little hula dancer on the dash?" I blinked. I was still in the black event staff t-shirt Clarice insisted I wear. My hair was pulled back in a way that made me look more like someone's assistant than someone's sister. The woman pulled a $5 bill from her clutch and held it out. "Bless your heart. Weddings are brutal, huh?" I stared at the cash, then at her. And then I dropped the bill into the nearest trash can without saying a word. Her jaw fell open, but I'd already turned away. I pulled my phone from my back pocket and tapped into the thread Vera had forwarded me earlier. My fingers scrolled slowly, careful not to miss anything. It was Delphine's message to her lawyer. "We'll sign the prenup to shut Vera up, then void it quietly after the merger. Malcolm won't even notice. He's too busy playing the good guy." A cold chill settled over me. They hadn't just humiliated me. They were about to defraud a man in front of 200 witnesses, and smile while doing it. I looked down at my outfit one more time. Then I walked to my car, threw open the back door, and yanked out the outfit I'd worn earlier. My navy jumpsuit, simple jewelry, low heels. I changed behind the car, tucked my hair into a twist, and applied lipstick in the mirror of my visor. When I looked up, I didn't see the help anymore. I saw someone who knew too much, and had nothing left to lose. "I'm not your valet," I muttered under my breath. "And I'm done playing nice." I walked back up the gravel path, past the archway wrapped in fake peonies, toward the main reception tent. As soon as I stepped onto the stone porch, I felt it. The eyes. A few servers froze mid-step. The wedding planner whispered urgently into her earpiece. A security guard shifted in place. Clarice was standing near the fountain, chatting with a family friend. When she spotted me, her smile flickered like a bad signal. She walked fast, intercepting me near the guest book table. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed under her breath, keeping her expression tight for the surrounding guests. I pulled out the folded waiver from my pocket and held it up. "Relax," I said calmly. I didn't sign it. Her hand twitched. "You were told to stay outside." "I was told a lot of things," I replied, stepping past her. "But this one's my decision." She reached for my arm, but I'd already moved on. Inside, the music was softer, slow jazz humming through the air. Chandeliers sparkled like they didn't know the ceiling was about to fall in. People turned, some whispered. Then Delphine saw me. She froze mid-laugh, her champagne glass pausing an inch from her mouth. Our eyes locked. She blinked like I was a ghost. A glitch in the simulation. I walked toward the bar. Malcolm was there, drink in hand, speaking low to Vera. She looked up and nodded at me once, quick and certain. "It's time," she said. The planner noticed us then, hovering too close for coincidence. I turned to her and smiled. "Do me a favor," I said. "You might want to record this part." Malcolm stood tall, adjusted his tie, and stepped onto the stage meant for toasts. He raised his hand once and the band stopped mid-chord. Forks dropped, glasses paused. Conversations died mid-sentence. He cleared his throat. "Before dinner I need to say something." Delphine smiled tightly, walking toward him, but he didn't look at her. He looked out into the crowd. "About who I am, and who I'm marrying." And in that moment, just for a second, her smile cracked. The air didn't shift, it cracked. Delphine's expression twitched, the edges of her mouth faltering as Malcolm's words echoed across the ballroom. There was a hesitation in the crowd, like a group inhale waiting to exhale. Malcolm stepped forward, the mic firm in his hand. His voice didn't waver. "Before we begin dinner, I think we all deserve honesty." He reached into the inside pocket of his suit jacket and pulled out a neatly folded document. My chest tightened. I already knew what it was. Vera had shown it to me hours earlier. "This is a prenup agreement we were both meant to honor," Malcolm said. He looked directly at Delphine. "But she sent instructions to her attorney to void it, 30 days after this wedding, after our assets merged." A gasp rippled through the room. Somewhere in the back, a fork clattered against a plate. Delphine blinked, her eyes darting toward the exit, then back to Malcolm. She opened her mouth, but said nothing. He unfolded the paper, lifted it high enough for the crowd to see. "Would you like to read it, Delphine?" he asked, offering it toward her. "Since you wrote it?" She didn't move. I watched her face, how it searched the room for someone to rescue her. But this time, no one came. Clarisse, of course, did what Clarisse always did. She moved quickly, stepping forward in heels that struck the marble floor too loud, too sharp. "That's enough," she snapped. "You're humiliating her. You're ruining her wedding." Malcolm turned his eyes on her. Calm, steel. "She did that when she lied." Clarisse's head snapped toward me, venom already coating her voice. "You've poisoned this family. You've always been bitter, a troublemaker." And that's when I heard him. No. It wasn't a shout, it was firmer, like a stone dropped in a still lake. Everyone turned. Russell, my father. He stepped into the light slowly, his posture straighter than I remembered, his voice clearer than I'd ever heard. "She didn't ruin this family," he said. "We did." The room stilled again, breathless. Clarisse stared at him, aghast. "You're siding with her?" He shook his head. "I'm not siding. I'm confessing." He turned to face the crowd, our family, their friends, all the strangers who came for champagne and floral centerpieces and fairy tale lies. "For years we looked the other way. Every time Clarisse played favorites. Every time Delphine twisted things. We let it happen." His voice broke slightly, but he continued. "Fiona wasn't a problem. She was inconvenient, and we failed her. I didn't know I was crying until I tasted salt." Delphine tried to recover. She stepped forward, holding out her hands like a magician trying to recapture a spell gone wrong. "They're making this up," she said. "This is fake. All of it." But then Vera stepped forward, measured, composed. "Then explain the email. The surveillance software you installed on Malcolm's devices. The prenup language that matches your own drafts." She raised an eyebrow. "And the hard drive we found in the bridal suite closet, hidden behind a bouquet box. Want to explain that too?" Delphine's mouth opened, then closed. Fiona, the shadow, the background noise, the one in black by the cars, was now at the center of the room. And for once, Delphine had no script to steal the spotlight back. She let out a strangled breath. Then she did what she always did when things didn't go her way. She bolted. The mic slipped from her hand, crashing to the ground with a screech of feedback. She stormed toward the doors, but her dress snagged on the leg of a chair and tore near the hemline. A sharp rip, a stunned silence, followed by gasps. No one followed her. At least not yet. Clarisse stood frozen. Her eyes flicked to me, not with fury this time, but something else. Recognition. For the first time, she looked at me and didn't see a problem to manage. She saw a reckoning. Then she turned, gathering the folds of her shawl around her, and followed her golden daughter out the ballroom doors. The music didn't start back up. Nobody toasted. And no one dared pretend it was still a wedding. The doors hadn't even closed behind Clarisse when the shift began. It wasn't loud. No shouts, no slammed glasses, just the air thinning. Conversations dropped off like someone had pulled a plug. It was the kind of silence you don't notice at first, until it's everywhere. People started to stand. One by one, guests tucked away napkins, glanced toward the exits, murmured to spouses. The hum of a ruined evening filled the space like low static. The ballroom, once glowing and packed, now emptied like a tide pulling back. There was no dinner, no champagne towers, no photo booth line, no bouquet toss. The music had died hours early, and so had the fairy tale. Malcolm sat at the sweetheart table, alone, his tie loosened, a drink untouched beside him. Vera moved calmly around the venue staff, quietly giving instructions, making sure the cleanup started gently, without the sound of defeat. My phone buzzed, a message, from Clarisse. "Come to the side hall, let's talk." No apology, no context, just a command, dressed as an invitation. I read it once, then pressed and held the screen. "Delete conversation?" the phone asked. Yes, because for the first time, I didn't feel like explaining myself anymore. I didn't feel like being summoned, and I sure as hell didn't feel like being managed. Instead, I walked over to Vera, who stood beside the dessert table that hadn't even been uncovered. She looked up from a checklist and offered me a quiet smile. I pulled the folded document from my pocket. The waiver, still unsigned, still blank. I handed it to her. She took it gently, as if handling evidence. "This," she said, snapping a photo with her phone, "this is what we call intimidation. But now," she looked up at me, sharp and certain, "now it's a receipt." She tucked the paper into her clutch. "I've got lawyers, and a few friends who owe me favors in places where scandals don't go unnoticed." I didn't ask what she meant. I just knew that, for once, I wasn't the one being erased. I took a deep breath and turned away. The reception hall had dimmed slightly, as if even the chandeliers were tired. I walked through the space slowly, the echo of my heels tapping softly against the polished floor. A few guests lingered in clusters, whispering. Some looked at me with discomfort, some with pity, a few with respect. I didn't return any glances, didn't wave, didn't flinch. Clarice was nowhere in sight. Delphine either, and I didn't care. I'd spoken without shouting, stood up without a mic, told the truth without ever raising my voice. I passed the table where I once would have sat. White linen, untouched silverware, a name card that never had my name, and I kept walking. As I neared the exit, someone was waiting. Russell. He didn't say a word, he didn't try to hug me, or apologize, or ask for forgiveness wrapped in excuses. Instead, he held out his phone. A photo on the screen, 2 little girls, one in a glittery store-bought princess dress, the other in a crooked homemade dragon costume, half slipping off one shoulder. Me. I looked at him. His eyes were glassy, his face tired, but he gave a single nod. That was all. I stepped past him. Out the ballroom. Out of the story they'd written for me. Outside, the air had cooled. Dusk had turned to full night, and the fairy lights twinkled over the courtyard like nothing had happened. Like the night hadn't shattered. Mason's car was already waiting. He didn't step out, didn't open the door. He just waited. I slid in beside him, shutting the door behind me. He glanced at me, didn't ask. I exhaled. Long, deep, like air I'd been holding for years finally left my lungs. We didn't speak, he just drove. And for once I wasn't walking away, I was walking out. By the time we reached the city line, the car ride had settled into a calm kind of quiet, the kind you don't rush to fill. Mason didn't ask where I wanted to go. He just drove, as if the answer wasn't a destination, but a feeling. We stopped for drive-through milkshakes at a place we used to love back in college. Chocolate for him, strawberry for me. Something about that felt like reclamation, not nostalgia exactly. More like a gentle reminder. Not all endings taste bitter. The next morning, I woke to the sun breaking through thin curtains in Mason's guest room. For the first time in years, I didn't check my phone before stretching. When I did, though, headlines were already waiting. Charleston heiress's wedding implodes amid legal leak. Prenup scandal rocks Southern society circle. Screenshots of Delphine's emails had hit a few forums overnight. I didn't post them, neither did Vera, but someone had. Someone with access and, apparently, a conscience. Her Instagram went dark. No stories, no reels, just silence where there used to be branded joy. The comments under her last bridal glam post were ruthless. So that's why the cake never got cut. I knew something was shady. Girl gave networking, not love. Lawsuit pending energy? Yikes. She wasn't canceled exactly, but the glow, gone. Malcolm filed for annulment the following Monday. Vera, quiet as ever, made no statement, but she did make a donation to a women's legal advocacy center in Charleston. In my name. I didn't ask for that, but I didn't return it either. Clarice, on the other hand, disappeared offline completely. Her Facebook scrubbed clean of anything tagged wedding. No new posts, no profile pic, just one voicemail on my phone. I know I failed, I don't know how to fix that. No plea, no tears. Still, I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. But I wasn't ready to hand her my peace, wrapped in forgiveness she hadn't earned. Some silences are less about anger and more about boundaries. Back in Atlanta, I started small. Took on a freelance gig helping a local nonprofit restructure their operations. Nothing flashy. but it felt good to be useful again, on my terms. I started jogging again, just a mile or two in the early morning. It helped clear the thoughts that still clung some days, the weight of old patterns, the echoes of a family that always made me feel like background noise. I bought a necklace, not for show, not to match anything, just a thin silver chain with a small F charm, a name I didn't need anyone else to validate. I never rewatched the wedding video. Didn't need to. Sometimes closure isn't about tying the bow, it's about walking away from the box altogether. Weeks later, I got mail. A small white envelope, no return address. But the handwriting made my chest tighten. Inside was a photo. 2 little girls, side by side in a driveway. One wore a glittery costume from a catalog. The other wore a lopsided dragon tail made of old towels and duct tape. Me. Tucked behind the photo was a note. Just 3 lines. I should have made you both feel seen. You were never invisible to me. Dad. I didn't cry, but I kept the photo, not for memory's sake, but to remind myself that even flawed people sometimes find their voice, even if it comes late. Now, most evenings, I sit out on the porch of the duplex I rent. It's nothing fancy. The wood creaks in the wrong spots, but it's mine, quiet, chosen. Tonight, I sipped mint tea as the last of the light melted behind the trees. Mason called from inside. You okay out there? I smiled into the dusk. I'm not okay, I called back, voice steady. I'm something better. I looked at the horizon, let the quiet settle around me like armor I'd finally earned. Then softly, to no one but myself, I whispered, I choose me. Before you scroll past, I want to say something I wish someone had said to me a long time ago. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, if you've ever sat quietly in a room full of people who were supposed to love you and still felt like a stranger, this is for you. You are not alone, you are not invisible, and you are not required to keep shrinking yourself to fit into a space that was never made to hold all of you. Too often, we're taught that keeping the peace means keeping quiet. That being the bigger person means swallowing hurt, ignoring disrespect, or pretending things don't cut as deep as they do. But here's the truth. Peace that costs you your voice, your worth, your identity, that's not peace. That's silence disguised as survival. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't leaving. It's choosing to walk away with your head high, without bitterness, without begging, and without needing anyone's approval. Choosing peace over permission, dignity over validation, yourself over the version of you they expect. It took me 37 years to stop waiting for someone to pick me, to stop bending backwards hoping someone would see my value. And the day I finally chose myself, that day changed everything. Was it easy? No. But was it worth it? Every damn bit. You may never get the apology you deserve. You may never hear the words you've been aching to hear since you were a kid. That doesn't make your pain any less real, and it sure doesn't make your healing any less valid. So let me ask you something straight up. Have you ever kept your mouth shut to keep the peace, even though it tore you up inside? Have you ever played small just to avoid making others uncomfortable? And if so, are you ready to stop doing that? I'd love to hear your story. Whether it's messy, raw, unfinished, none of that disqualifies it. We don't heal by hiding. We heal by speaking, by sharing, by knowing we're not the only ones. If this hit something in you, if it stirred up a truth you've been afraid to say, drop a 1 in the comments or let me know where you're watching from. If it didn't land, that's okay too. I want to hear from you anyway. Tell me what felt off. Let's talk. Let's learn. No judgment here. And if you're in that in-between space, halfway between silence and standing up, I see you. I've been there. You are not too late. You are not too much. And you are not alone. If you want more conversations that tell the truth, that go beneath the surface, that remind us we're all still trying to figure it out, subscribe. Stick around. Your voice matters here. Your story matters. You matter. I'll see you in the next one. Hi there. I'm Brianna. My brother made a toast to being an only child while I sat right there, and no one blinked. Not my mom, not my dad. That night, I realized this wasn't just some awkward family moment. It was intentional. The kind of silence that steals your name from family trusts, that erases you from birthday invites, hospital calls, even insurance papers. They didn't just forget me, they planned around me. So I stood up. And I said something I can never take back. I arrived 3 minutes early and still felt late. The restaurant was one of those places where you couldn't tell if you were supposed to eat the food or frame it. Everything was muted beige and polished brass, and the waitstaff spoke like they were trying not to wake a sleeping baby. I was seated at the far end of a long candlelit table, between a ficus and my cousin's new boyfriend, who called me Brianna twice before giving up. Across the room, my brother Lowell stood, already charming the room like a senator during re-election season. His laugh, loud, practiced, cut through the hum of silverware. My mother, Delilah, was glued to his side, nodding like a proud campaign manager. My father, Wendell, kept beaming at him the way dads in commercials look at their sons after mowing the lawn. No one asked me how I was. No one noticed I was there. I didn't show it, of course. I smiled when someone glanced my way, nodded politely when my cousin talked about her new kitchen remodel. I played the part. That's what I always did. Until Lowell picked up his champagne glass and tapped it lightly with his ring. "First off," he began, all faux humility, "thank you all for being here to celebrate the two people who shaped the man you see before you. The most incredible parents anyone could ask for." There was a polite laugh, a few raised glasses. I waited. "And second," he continued, turning toward them, "thank you for raising the best only child in the world." It landed like a slap. There was a half second where I expected someone, anyone, to interrupt, to say, "Wait, what about Brianna?" But instead, my mother raised her glass with a tight-lipped smile. My father chuckled softly, like it was an inside joke. That was the moment something in me flipped. Not cracked, not broke, just shifted. I didn't flinch. I didn't clear my throat. I sat there, hands resting in my lap, back straight. My purse was on the floor beside me, and inside it, an envelope I'd spent months preparing. A gesture. A gift. A sign that maybe I was ready to let go of old wounds and start over. But now, I wasn't sure who deserved it anymore. Lowell went on talking, making some joke about his baby photos and how they were always the favorites. People laughed. My parents beamed. I didn't hear the rest. My ears had gone quiet. Not with rage, not yet, but with something colder. Something final. I thought back to the last time they acknowledged me publicly. I couldn't remember when that even was. Maybe my high school graduation, when they forgot to bring flowers, but remembered to bring a camera, for Lowell. Tonight wasn't about forgetting, it was about erasure. And they all played along. I looked down at the envelope. The corners were soft now, worn from weeks of second-guessing. I'd thought it might be the olive branch they didn't expect but needed. That maybe, just maybe, this dinner would be the turning point. Instead, it became the proof. And in that pause, I realized silence was my mother tongue. But tonight, I was done speaking it. I didn't stand up yet, but the weight of that envelope burned through my fingertips. I shifted in my seat, watching the smiles stretch around the table like nothing had just happened. Someone asked Lowell what law school taught him about being so damn smooth, and he launched into another rehearsed story. My mother giggled. My father gave him that nod, proud, automatic, detached. I clapped too, quietly, because that's what was expected. The lie wasn't just in what Lowell said, it was in the silence that followed. That was the loudest part. No one corrected him. Not even a glance my way. That's when it clicked. This wasn't an accident. It was confirmation. A year ago, almost to the day, I gave my father a handmade photo album for his birthday. I'd spent weeks scanning old family photos, restoring them, adding captions, memories he said he cherished. When he opened it, he blinked like it was a tax form. "Oh, that's nice," he muttered, then passed it to my mother, who flipped through the first few pages before asking, "Did Lowell help you make this?" I remember that moment like a snapshot burned into my brain. I said no, I made it myself. She nodded, put the album down next to the bread basket, and asked if someone could pass the butter. I never saw it again. Then there was the card. Same year. I'd written a full page, gratitude, childhood memories, hopes. It wasn't even read aloud. Lowell handed his card across the table with a one-liner about our dad being the only man who could survive living with Mom for 40 years. Everyone laughed. Someone wiped a tear. Mine stayed in the pile, unopened, underneath a napkin. I took it back when I left. That night, I sat in my car outside their house for 20 minutes, engine running, radio off, not crying, just waiting. For what, I still don't know. Maybe for someone to chase me out and say, "We saw, we're sorry." But no one did. Back in the present, I reached for my bag. The envelope was still there. Clean white paper, carefully sealed, addressed in handwriting I'd practiced 3 times. Inside, a check. $65,000. No strings, no speech. Just a note that read, "Because you showed up when no one else did." I had brought it tonight thinking, maybe, just maybe, this would be the night I finally said thank you out loud, to the people I thought had raised me. But after that toast, after that deliberate erasure, I realized this envelope didn't belong to them anymore. Not after the album, not after the card, not after a lifetime of being a background prop in a play they never let me audition for. I looked across the room, at the people laughing, toasting, pretending this family made space for everyone. It didn't. And I was done pretending I didn't know that. I didn't stop the dinner, but something inside me had already walked away. While the rest of the table picked up where the toast left off, refilling glasses, pretending nothing happened, I just stared at the melting candle in front of me. My plate hadn't been touched. I couldn't remember what I'd even ordered. Across from me, someone laughed at another one of Lowell's stories. My mother leaned in, whispering something into his ear that made his smug grin stretch wider. I wondered how often they rehearsed that dynamic. It felt like watching a stage play I'd never been cast in. And just like that, I was back in that emergency room. A year ago, 2:07 a.m. I'd never been in that much pain before. I thought it was food poisoning, maybe worse. The nurse said I was dehydrated and my blood pressure had dropped. I could barely sit upright, my body shaking so hard they had to hold my arm still to insert the IV. The first call went to voicemail, so did the second. By the third, I didn't expect an answer. My hands were too weak to type, but I managed a text. In ER, not okay. No dots appeared, no reply, nothing. By the time the fluids kicked in and the nausea settled, it was nearly 4 a.m. My phone finally lit up around 9. Mom. Sorry, I was wiped out after Lowell's work dinner. Everything all right? I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I typed, hospitalized. 5 minutes later, her reply came. Mom. Must be that sensitive stomach. You should really stop eating so much takeout. No. Are you okay now? No call, no offer to help, just another excuse wrapped in judgment. I stared at the sterile ceiling that morning, letting the IV beep fill the silence. It wasn't anger I felt, it was something colder, more settled. They don't come when I need them. They didn't come when I was 6 and scared at that school play. Didn't come when I failed my driver's test and cried in the parking lot. And they definitely didn't come when I was lying in that hospital bed, wondering if I was going to be okay alone. Back at the table, Lowell knocked his glass against Dad's with a satisfied smirk. Someone asked Mom about her new garden pots, and she launched into a story about lavender roots, like the air hadn't just shifted 15 minutes ago. I wasn't invisible because I failed to shine. I was invisible because they refused to look. That night in the ER, I stopped calling. Tonight, I stopped hoping. The laughter at the table started to sound like white noise. I kept my expression neutral, eyes moving slowly between each face as if I were trying to memorize a room I was about to leave forever. Lowell cracked another joke about childhood bath time. I think something about rubber ducks and Dad accidentally tossing me in the kiddie pool. It landed with a round of laughs. Classic. Rewrite history, frame me as the punchline. My mother leaned over to one of the cousins. He's always been the sharp one, hasn't he? She said loud enough for me to hear. I stirred my iced water and smiled into the glass. I didn't need their approval. I just wanted to stop being erased like I never mattered in the first place. The memory came uninvited. It was last summer. I'd driven to their house in my first fully paid-off car, a used sedan I bought with freelance checks and more overtime than I care to admit. I pulled up the driveway, expecting something. Maybe not applause, but at least acknowledgement. "Did Lowell bring you?" Mom asked when I walked in, not even glancing at the keys in my hand. "No," I said. "That's my car." She blinked, then tilted her head. "Oh, good that it runs." That was it. No curiosity, no follow-up, not even a compliment on how clean it looked, how proud I must be. Just a quick pivot to Dad's back pain and how Lowell's new Lexus had seat massagers. I should have known then, but what really drove the point home came just last week. A random message from my cousin Lisa popped up. "Sorry you couldn't make brunch. You'd have been proud of Lowell." I didn't know what brunch she was talking about. I scrolled her feed and found a picture. Everyone gathered around a long wooden table. My mom, Dad, even the great-aunt from Florida who hates flying. And there he was, Lowell, standing and raising a glass, just like he had tonight. The caption read, "To the future of the family, congrats, Lowell." I texted Lisa, "What was the brunch for?" She replied, "Didn't they tell you? They named him executor of the trust. Big deal." Big deal. Big enough to fly in out-of-state relatives, big enough for champagne and framed menus. Not big enough to include me. Not even an FYI. Not even a call afterward. They hadn't forgotten. They just didn't think I needed to know. My gaze drifted back to the dinner table. I listened closer this time. The conversations, the inside jokes, the way they all orbited around Lowell like a solar system. I wasn't even a moon, just a speck in the distance. It wasn't just that they didn't need me. They'd already decided I didn't exist. I leaned slightly to sip my water when I felt someone shift beside me. Vivian, my second cousin on my dad's side, leaned in like she was sharing a secret. "Hey, is it true you told your mom you were done with the family?" she asked in a whisper that wasn't quiet enough. I blinked. "What?" "You know, that you didn't want to be part of all this anymore," she said, gesturing vaguely to the table, the room, maybe the entire bloodline. "That's what your mom said, and Lowell mentioned something like that too, a while ago." I swallowed hard. So this was the story now. They weren't just excluding me. They were rewriting me. Over the past few months, I'd started noticing how some relatives had pulled back. Text replies got shorter. Invitations stopped arriving. Even people who used to send holiday cards every year had suddenly gone quiet. I chalked it up to distance, life, normal drift. But then one of my oldest cousins, Petra, accidentally let it slip on a phone call. "I mean, your mom said you've always been kinda overly emotional," she offered, trying to sound neutral. "What does that mean?" I asked, trying not to sound defensive. "She said it's hard to talk to you sometimes, that you take things too personally. And then, Lowell told us you cut contact a long time ago, like, completely." I hadn't. I'd just stopped chasing them, and apparently silence makes great fertilizer for lies. Dinner wrapped. The servers began clearing plates and refilling coffee cups. I excused myself from the table and waited just outside the restaurant, letting the night air cool my skin. The sidewalk glowed under the streetlights. My mother stepped out a few minutes later, clutching her shawl dramatically like she expected applause. I didn't wait. "Why are you telling people I don't want to be part of the family?" She blinked, one of those rehearsed delays. "We're not telling them anything you haven't already shown." I stared at her. "You mean like the years I kept showing up, calling, sending gifts, and getting nothing back?" She shrugged. "You've always been sensitive." That word again. Like compassion was a flaw, like being human was the problem. "And you've always been great at making that sound like a weakness," I said. She looked away, jaw tight. I took one step closer, calm, firm. "Let me be clear. One more lie, just one, and I will respond, not quietly, not nicely, and not privately." Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. I turned and walked back toward the lot. My voice didn't tremble. My hands didn't shake. They didn't know it yet. But I had stopped asking for peace and started preparing for war. The next morning, I was standing at the kitchen counter, pouring my second cup of coffee, when my phone rang. Noreen's name flashed across the screen. I hadn't even said hello before her voice cracked through. "Brianna, we got something, an email, from someone anonymous. It had screenshots." I froze. My pulse jumped. Screenshots of what? Messages. From you. Old ones years back. Her voice trembled, soft and stunned. Bree, they sound bad. Like you were angry about us. I closed my eyes. I knew exactly what they were. Back when I still held out hope. When I was desperate to untangle the mess between my family and the two people who actually showed up for me. I'd texted things like, "Sometimes I wish you two weren't in the middle of all this." Or, "I just need space," from all of them, especially Mom. They weren't cruel, just tired, honest, private, messages sent on nights I was unraveling inside. "Did you read all of them?" I asked gently. "We did, but we also knew they were old and personal. We just didn't want you to think we believed it meant something more." I knew where they came from. There was only one person who ever had access to my old phone backups. Lowell, back when I was dumb enough to sync devices with him for safety. This wasn't clumsy revenge. This was planned, tactical. They weren't trying to ruin my image. They were trying to sever me from the only people left in my corner. I took a long breath and sat down at my desk. No crying, no pacing, no cursing the ceiling, just stillness, then action. I opened a blank email, addressed it to Delilah and Lowell. Subject line, "You started this," the body read. "If you want to drag this into the dark, I'll bring it into the light. You've mistaken silence for surrender. That's over. If another lie, whisper, or manipulation lands in their inbox or mine, I will make sure the truth finds every person you've tried to fool. No, love, Brianna. No signature." Then I opened another draft. This one to Noreen and Elroy. "They're trying to shake your faith in me, but I've never questioned my faith in you." Attached to the email was the letter. The one I had originally written for my parents. $65,000. With gratitude. With peace. Now it was a different kind of truth. I clicked send. The email had one subject line. "Your silence was never my weakness." The next blow came fast, less than 24 hours after I hit send. I was standing in line at the pharmacy, trying to refill my prescription for migraines. The clerk scanned my card, frowned, and typed again. Then again. "Sorry," she finally said, not meeting my eyes. "Your insurance was denied. Looks like the policy's inactive." "Inactive?" I asked, pulse rising. "Since when?" She handed me a printed note. I read the words 3 times, just to be sure I hadn't misunderstood. Coverage terminated April 6th, 2 years ago. The policy had been under my father's name, Wendell, and no one told me. No call, no letter, not even a cheap automated email. 2 years I'd been walking around uninsured, thinking I had a safety net, because they let me believe I did. I didn't even have time to breathe before my phone buzzed. It was Doreen. Her voice was shaky the moment she spoke. "Bree, they sent a letter. A legal one. A lawyer. They're saying we have to return the money. That it wasn't a valid gift." I tightened my grip on the phone. "What kind of lawyer?" "Family estate representation," she read. "They're claiming mental manipulation, that you weren't in a clear emotional state to give that amount." I almost laughed, but not from humor. "They're accusing me of being unfit. The same people who cut my name from insurance without a word?" Doreen sniffled. "They're scaring us, Bree. We don't know what to do." "You don't have to do anything," I said. "Just send me a photo of the letter. I'll handle the rest." After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of water, sat at my desk, and stared at the letter on my screen. A legal threat, dressed in civility, signed by someone who didn't know me, but who clearly had been fed a version of me. I called the law office, got the assistant. "I need you to write this down," I said. "I have every receipt, every timestamp. I have audio, emails, and one voicemail from the woman you're trying to protect that would gut your entire argument." A pause. Then I added, "If they want to fight, I hope they packed a damn lunch." I hung up. Then I opened a folder and started building the truth. Every message, every favor ignored, every gift dismissed, every line of silence they had hoped I'd never break. I printed it all. And for once, my hands didn't shake. They pushed me out of the family. Now I'm taking the whole damn door with me. By nightfall, the silence in my apartment wasn't empty. It was loaded. I opened the voice file one more time. My mother's voice, smooth and clipped like always, said, "She's not really ours. Never felt like it. Some kids, you love because you have to." It had landed in my inbox by accident 2 months ago. Meant for Wendell, sent to me. I'd replayed it too many times, thinking maybe I'd misheard. Maybe she meant something else. But there was no mishearing that tone. No warmth, no stumble, just the sound of a decision already made. I wasn't going to beg for space in a house where the blueprint never had a room for me. I opened a folder on my desktop labeled Archive. Inside it were everything they'd tried to forget I had. Screenshots, voicemails, photos, receipts, timelines. I uploaded it all to a private drive. Then I wrote the email. Subject: I'm not asking anymore. Recipients: everyone who'd ever looked away. Cousins, in-laws, family friends, the lawyer, Wendell, Delilah, Lowell. The body of the email was short. Consider this my statement. I'm not waiting to be heard. I'm making sure I'm not erased. Attached was the folder, the audio file, the receipts. I clicked send. Then I posted the same on a private link and shared it on my social channels. Not for sympathy, not for drama, just so no one could say, "We didn't know." By morning, my phone was vibrating non-stop. One cousin messaged, "Brianna, I'm sorry, I didn't realize." And Uncle's Facebook read, "Sometimes the loudest voices were quiet too long." Delilah's page vanished. Lowell? Nothing. Not even a thumbs down. And me? I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, finalized my business license for a new LLC, advocacy for financial independence. My first clients? Women estranged from families, left off trusts, cut from insurance, the ones no one believed deserved protection. They erased me from the family photo, so I developed my own damn picture. 3 months passed like slow thawing ice. Spring touched Portland with early blooms and chilly mornings. I had a quiet rental on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a place where I could hear myself think. My parents never reached out. No apology, no questions, just silence. Lowell, of course, couldn't help himself. One text. That was low, even for you. I didn't open it, just deleted it before the preview even faded from my lock screen. He didn't get the last word this time. He never really deserved the first. Friends vanished, some quietly, some with weak explanations. "We're staying neutral," one wrote. I almost laughed. But no one asked Doreen and Elroy to return the $65,000. Not a word from the lawyer. Maybe they realized I wasn't bluffing. Maybe they knew I'd saved everything. I didn't care why. I had clients now. Young women, single moms, first-gen business owners. Every one of them tired of being dismissed in legal fine print and family dinner tables alike. We sat across from each other over coffee or Zoom screens. I showed them how to track every penny, file the right forms, untangle messes they never asked for. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped needing to be understood and started being useful. Doreen made pancakes every Sunday now. She still asked if I wanted blueberries in the batter, even though I always said yes. Elroy called me kiddo while fixing my front gate. He grumbled about the rust, but brought his own tools. Then one afternoon, I opened my mailbox and found a card. Inside was a photo. Me, Doreen, and Elroy at brunch, laughing, natural, whole. The note said, "You don't have to be born into a family to be loved by one. You were always ours, even when they didn't see it." I stood in my kitchen for a long time, holding that card. Then I walked to the fridge and pinned the photo up with a magnet shaped like a miniature Oregon pine tree. Some nights are still quiet, but now they don't feel like punishment. Just room to breathe. I don't chase a seat at someone else's table anymore. I built my own, and I know exactly who belongs there. They didn't raise me, but they watched me rise, and this time I chose who clapped. Sometimes the family you're born into doesn't see you. Sometimes they rewrite your name out of photos, wills, memories, like you were just passing through. And that hurts, deeply. But what I've learned is this. You don't need their permission to exist fully. You don't need their approval to grow roots, build something of your own, or redefine what family means. The truth doesn't need a crowd to be real. It just needs you to stand by it. I used to think silence meant safety. Now I know silence is a choice, and so is rising. And if you're watching this, wondering if you're the problem, or if you're too much for people who keep shrinking the room around you, maybe it's time you build your own door too. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt erased by someone who was supposed to protect you? Or have you ever had to choose your peace over being accepted? Drop a comment with a 1 if this story touched something real in you. Or tell me, where are you watching this from? What's your story? And hey, if this video resonated, if it sparked anything in your heart, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next story.